Dyno Don Nicholson was truly one of the most accomplished builders and drivers in the sport of drag racing, an absolute legend. Don was my great uncle, and my parents named me after him. Here I am next to his Ford Mustang II in 1976, and with him a few years later in 1985. I'm putting this video together to preserve his legacy for future generations. But before I go into detail about his career, take 2.5 minutes and hear it from Dyno himself from an interview during the 1977 season.
One of the leaders in the World Championship Series race in Pro Stock Eliminator is 50-year-old Dyno Don Nicholson, the winner of the Spring Nationals. Steve's with Dyno Don right now.
Thank you, Dave. In a rare, relaxed moment, Don Nicholson is going to take us back in his many years of drag racing, and it's been a long, long time, hasn't it, Don?
Yeah, it sure has. I got 1949. We were at that first drag strip ever opened in Santa Ana, California.
But it was really 61, NHRA style, at the first Winter Nationals, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the first time we made the big time, I guess you'd say.
And this was the car?
Yeah, 61 Chevy. We came back in the next year and won with a 62. And 2 years in a row there with the stock eliminator. Chevrolet kind of got out of it, you know, and we went with the Mercury team then. And this was with the first Mercury car we built, the wagon. Proved real successful. In fact, so successful that they got us into a coupe because everybody was complaining about us running a wagon. Nobody else had one.
Well, here's one any die-hard drag racing fan remembers. It was the first of its kind.
That's right. That was the first flip-top funny car ever built by anyone. And, of course, it was a forerunner of what we see now in the funny cars. And we won as many as 39 races in a row with that thing without ever losing one.
Now that was an unblown car. This is a supercharged machine.
Right. 68, we finally decided we was going to have to go to the supercharged cars to keep up. The tires were getting better and more horsepower, and the supercharged cars definitely were the way to go in 68.
Then you got out of funny cars. Why?
Well, with those superchargers, we were getting a lot of fires. A lot of guys were getting burnt, and I felt like that without the onboard fire equipment that we got now on the cars, they just weren't safe enough to drive. And I seen where I could make a living going back to the match race super stock cars. So I made a switch back, and NHRA, I think, kind of seen the handwriting on the wall, and they come back with a pro stock class for us in 1970.
This was really the first of the contemporary style pro stocks.
Right, the 70 Maverick,
And this is the car, Don, you hope will carry you to a world championship here in 77.
Yeah, we sure hope so, Steve. We've been going all the way with it this year, and we plan on being there at the end.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you. We take all the luck we can get.
David, back to you.
Dyno Don proved that you do get better with age, as in round number 2 racing in Pro Stock Eliminator, he established a new national record of 8.57 seconds elapsed time with his Ford Mustang. That's 8.57 seconds from a standing start to cover a quarter of a mile distance. Plenty quick for Dyno Don.
Born in Missouri in 1927, but growing up in Pasadena, California, Don was leading the way as the sport of drag racing was being born. Originally a circle track roadster campaigner in the late 1940s, and then a participant in speed competitions at abandoned airstrips, the LA River, and dry lakes racing in El Mirage and Bonneville, Nicholson went on to become a pioneer and winner in several classes of drag racing. One of Don's advantages was that he already had raced for many years in other forms of motorsports by the time that sanctioned drag strips began to open throughout Southern California. Before racing full-time, he was either running someone else's performance business or his own shop. He earned his Dyno nickname as one of the first to utilize a chassis dyno to extract maximum power, which he first operated at a Chevrolet dealership in Pasadena in the late 1950s. By the time the NHRA held its first Winter Nationals at Pomona Raceway in 1961, he was ready to put his well-honed skills to use. By winning the stock title at the 1961 Winter Nationals, Nicholson brought Chevy their first NHRA national event win. He successfully defended his title in 1962 to become a household name in drag racing circles throughout the country. It is often speculated that the Beach Boys' hit 409 was inspired by Dyno's 409-powered Chevys. In 1963, Dyno Don was campaigning 3 different Chevys at races across the country: the 409 Bel Air, a Chevy 2 wagon, and a Chevy 2 coupe. When Chevrolet dropped their factory backing of drag racing in 1963, Don jumped at the chance to campaign a factory-backed, A-factory experimental 1964 Mercury Comet. Having learned from the favorable weight transfer from the Chevy 2 wagon, Don started with a Comet wagon and dominated to the point where other factory racers complained. In the spring of 1964, Don would switch to a Comet hardtop and record the first 10-second run for a door slammer. With wheels in the air off the start and through gear changes, Don's Comet would mesmerize the fans and the competition. The success Don enjoyed with early Chevys would carry over and see him win more than 90% of his match race dates in 1964. A new AFX Comet would follow in 1965 and quickly establish itself as a category leader. Cashing in on the exploding match race craze, Don would soon convert his Comet into a funny car by altering the wheelbase and adding fuel injection and nitromethane fuel. He would defeat the mighty Mopars of Sox and Martin, the Ram Chargers, and Mr. Norms, and by the end of the season, the Comet would be recording 9-second flat elapsed times. In 1966, Dyno and his sponsor Mercury set the course for all future funny cars by building a tube-framed chassis Comet with a one-piece flip-top body, which is how all funny cars are constructed to this day. With the Eliminator 1 Comet, Don recorded the first 7-second pass for a funny car. Dyno's successes with the Eliminator 2 in 1967 and in 1968 with his Eliminator Cougar made him all but unbeatable with staggering win percentages.
On the surface, but is actually a supercharged 1,200 horsepower fuel-burning engine covered by a fragile fiberglass shell.
Coca-Cola's sponsorship of the Eliminator Cougar is said to be the first ever motorsports sponsorship by the company. Don was considered king of the funny car before switching to factory door cars in 1968, and was voted Funny Car Driver of the Year by the leading publications in 1965, 1966, 1967, and 1968. Mercury translated Dyno's success on the track to the showroom floor by offering a Cougar Eliminator package for 1969 and 1970 model years. When funny cars switched to supercharged engines in 1967, Don became concerned with the danger of blower explosions and engine fires. Look at the driver location in relation to the engine and you can appreciate his concern. Further, Don observed that the funny cars no longer resembled what Detroit was trying to sell, and some of the automakers were backing out of funny cars. In a pursuit of getting their fan base back, Nicholson teamed with Sox and Martin, Bill Jenkins, and Dick Landy to form a match race circuit with carbureted, 4-speed equipped heads-up superstock cars. Nicholson converted Jerry Harvey's 1966 AFX Mustang into a heads-up superstocker and drove it to a victory in street in the 1969 NHRA Spring Nationals. The popularity of the heads-up 9-second entries on the match race circuit prompted NHRA to create the Pro Stock category for 1970. Competing with a hastily prepared Ford Maverick that was built in just 7 days to run the first ever Pro Stock category race, Don qualified for the Winter Nationals, but fell to the overwhelming number of Chevrolet and Chrysler entries. He became dominant on the match race circuit, however, and during one August stretch, ran up a streak of 45 consecutive round wins. Working with assistants Earl Wade and Dave McRain, he perfected the Ford 27 Camera engine combination and became the first Ford Pro Stock to win an NHRA and AHRA national event. The Maverick established the category's national record and was the first Pro Stock Ford to record a 9-second run. Dyno debuted the first Cleveland-powered Pro Stock Pinto in February 1972 and won the AHRA World Championship the same season. His Pinto rewarded him with 3 consecutive wins to open the 1973 season: the AHRA Winter Nationals, NHRA Winter Nationals, and the NHRA Gator Nationals. In the 1974 season, Don switched to a Mustang II to compete in national events and a countless number of match races across the country. To stay competitive and take advantage of the ever-changing NHRA rules, Don switched to a 1970 Mustang for the latter part of 1974 and all of 1975. For 1976, Don built an all-new Mustang II that became a world champion. With John Causey working as his top crewman, the pair squeezed maximum power out of a variety of Cleveland-based engines. The results of their actions showed well in national events and match races. 1977 was the year when everything clicked. Don and his Mustang II won every NHRA regional points meet possible that year and qualified number 1 at all of them, a rare feat in any category, let alone Pro Stock. His 1977 Mustang II was the very first Pro Stock car to run a 7-second time. Dyno and his Mustang II won the 1977 NHRA World Championship, accomplishing the feat at the age of 50. Dyno continued to campaign his Ford entries through the early 80s, running plenty of match race events and some NHRA events. In 1984, he campaigned a Ralph Woodall Oldsmobile with some success before retiring from Pro Stock at age 57. His retirement was short-lived though, and in 1985 he hired on to drive a Pro Stock Thunderbird for Frank Sosinski. In 1988, Don returned to drag racing with a Pro Mod version of his '62 Chevy Bel Air that would make 7.5-second 170-mile-per-hour exhibition passes. Ever the competitor, Dyno once again teams with Frank Sosinski in 1988 and 1999 to campaign a Ford Pro Stock truck. In a Chevy-dominated category, the pair would find themselves fighting an uphill battle. Because his career spanned the 1960s and 1970s, when there were relatively few NHRA national events on the calendar, the bulk of his wins came in match race competition, where he sometimes won more than 90% of his races. Many drag race historians agree that if Nicholson had been able to race in the 1980s and 1990s, he would have compiled an NHRA record like that of funny car racer John Force and pro stock racers Warren Johnson and Bob Glidden. Still, Nicholson holds the record for final round appearances in the most NHRA eliminator categories, scoring either wins or runner-up efforts in funny car, pro stock, super comp, stock, and street, having at least one major event victory in each. Don has been inducted into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame in Ocala, Florida, and the Motorsports Hall of Fame in Novi, Michigan. At the celebration of Ford's 100 years of racing in October of 2001, Don received this one of only 11 produced cast-iron replicas of Ford's first racer. The Sweepstakes Award was given to Don for his exceptional contribution to the advancement of Ford motorsport. The fame and popularity of Dyno Don in the 60s and 70s cannot be understated. Businesses like Coca-Cola, Pennzoil, Mercury, Gunk, Holley, and numerous performance parts companies had national marketing campaigns built around the celebrity of Don. You couldn't flip through an automotive magazine without coming across advertisements featuring Dyno and one of his many generations of race cars. Dyno has more model cars made of his race cars than any other driver, ever. The models pictured here represent just some of the models produced, and even more are due for production due to Dyno's continued popularity. A rare combination of builder, tuner, and driver, Dyno successfully competed with 4 different brands over 5 decades in the most competitive classes of drag racing, often dominating his class. His loyalty and appreciation for his fans was paramount, yet family was his priority. His wife Patty and daughter Cindy traveled the nation with him his entire career. Always ready with a smile to a friend or competitor alike, motorsports legend Dyno Don Nicholson made a massive impact not only on the sport, but the many lives he touched. My goal of this video was to share broad strokes of Dyno's career. Author Doug Boyce has chronicled Don's cars and career in excellent detail in his book about Dyno Don. For a fan of Dyno and/or drag racing from the 60s through the 2000s, this 175-page book, with its hundreds of rare, color, and black and white photos, is a must-have.